All right, welcome back everybody to our latest episode of The Nest. And joining me for today's episode is my co-host Rohan Venkatesh. Rohan, how have you been?
Good as always, as I usually see on the show, and I'm looking forward to seeing a new format over here. We have our first interview on the show, so I'm always excited for that.
Definitely, yes. So additionally, we are extremely excited to welcome Drew Barksdale onto the show today. Drew currently serves as an assistant director of undergraduate career services in the Carroll School of Management at Boston College. Alongside advising students, he leads the office's efforts to promote DEI in the school and instructs two courses during the academic year. Prior to working in higher education, Drew spent 3 years working as a financial analyst for various companies. He currently resides in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but he has roots back to Cleveland, Ohio, where he grew up in the suburbs of the east side of town. He attended Boston College, where he was the recipient of the Gridiron Club football scholarship, and he played wide receiver there for 4 years before retiring from the game due to injuries. Outside of work, Drew is an avid runner, completing 2 marathons and training for a third. And he's also a golfer and skier. He enjoys spending time with his friends and family over the weekends, and he is a self-proclaimed donut aficionado. So, Drew, welcome to the Nest. How have you been?
Marja, Rohan, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. And it's always funny to just hear that intro about yourself, but I'm doing well. Here in Boston, it's a heat wave. I know you guys aren't here, but it's been high 90s, low hundreds, high humidity.
Well, crack triple digits up there.
Yeah, so it's been hot. But, I'm going to the pool later today with my family, but I'm hanging in there, doing well.
Yeah, always good to get through this heat wave. For me personally down here in Memphis, it's been like in the 90s consistently. And I don't know about you, Martha, out west, but I know this heat wave has pretty much been hitting like across the country, maybe
That actually hasn't
across
been
the world
too bad here recently. Like it's in the 80s, so it's more like manageable compared to high 90s and 100. So I guess it's still hot, but it's just not as hot as the heat you guys are experiencing elsewhere, right?
Well, I guess that's true. I'm just gonna get to the first question over here. So Drew, like I know you've kind of made a name for yourself over at BC, as an athlete, as a student, and now in your current role. But I have to imagine that like it has to stretch far like before that, right? So before you really made it as an athlete over at BC, there must have been steps taken before that. So what was really the first thing that really got you into the game, right? Into the game of football? What really got you interested and what made you like really pursue that passion?
Yeah, great question. So you're just taking me back long time. So I started playing football. So kind of just scratching out my journey. I grew up in Cleveland. So that's where I kind of have my childhood and like young adult memories. But I actually was born and spent from age 0 to around 6th grade. So I think I don't even know, like 10, maybe 11 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I lived in the North Hills. I lived in the community, Wexford. My public high school there was North Allegheny. And I think I started playing football, I believe it was 4th grade. And so it kind of just happened by happenstance. It's not that I was really interested in the game. I didn't follow the NFL well, I didn't follow college football. But what I did do, I had a really strong community of guys that I grew up with playing other sports. So early on, it started with soccer. And then, that's like, I think everybody as a kid plays either soccer or baseball, really as one of their first introductory sports. So it started with soccer. I had a group of guys. We didn't stay playing soccer, but we did that in the fall. That was like kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade. And then we started transitioning into baseball. And baseball was kind of like that first sport, like that first love that I had. I just loved competing, loved being on the field with my friends. And it was a way to socialize really and just kind of feel connected to a community. And I played with the same group of guys every year on the same team. And we started to grow up together. And they started playing football 2nd or 3rd grade, so a little bit earlier than me. And then they kind of were just like, Drew, like, we're playing football this fall. Like, what are you doing? Like, you should come out for the team. I never had played football before. I didn't really know much about it, but I'm like, yeah, you guys are doing it. I'm going to jump right along. So that kind of got me into the game. It's really funny because my dad's a doctor. And so they were very adamant of me playing football, but I was just kind of like, I'm going to do what my friends are doing. I didn't know anything about the game, risks or anything like that. I just wanted to play, have fun, just be with my group. So I started there in like 4th or 5th grade, and passion, I didn't really have it. I just liked being with people. I was athletic. I liked playing game, and I slowly started to hone some skills. I was always athletic, and so I just kind of started to stand out early, and started progressing 4th, 5th grade until then then my family moved, and we moved to Cleveland, east side of town, went to a suburb, lived in a suburb called Solon. And that's kind of where, I really started to take off, or, start to like excel and, be above others. So, when I really think back to how I got started on football, it was, baseball. It was kind of different sports, following friends that kind of got me connected to the game.
So may I ask, what led you to football as opposed to baseball or as opposed to other sports? It's just kind of a random follow up I decided to throw in there. But I mean, like, is there anything about football in particular that drew you into it?
Yeah. So, anybody who plays baseball as a young kid knows that the game can be kind of slow. It's a great game, but it's slow. It's not as competitive as other sports, football, lacrosse, soccer. It's not as fast paced, a lot of standing. And so when I started playing football, it was constant contact. You were play every 7 seconds, or play lasted 7 seconds. You're moving every minute. Like, it was constantly moving compared to baseball. And so that just kind of got me connected to the game. And when I actually made that move to Solon in like going into 7th grade, I actually stopped playing baseball and picked up lacrosse. So I did football, basketball, lacrosse. So football was in the fall, basketball in the winter, lacrosse in the spring. And then I blended my summers between training for football, going to football camps, and also doing travel lacrosse with various teams in the greater Cleveland area. And I would definitely say, for me, I started to really enjoy, where my skill set I saw, my agility, my agileness, my speed. It really translated well to football and lacrosse. And as I started to progress by like my freshman year in high school, I really was like, I got an aptitude. I'm good at football and I'm good at lacrosse. Basketball I'm okay at, but like if I drop this sport, I'll be able to have more time to put energy and effort into these other 2 things. Lacrosse, I can do more in the winter, and then in the summer, I can put more time to football. So I just kind of not worry about basketball. So that's kind of how.
No,
Yeah,
that's
it's always good to know, man. Yeah, it's a good story.
yeah, no, definitely. I was just about to say, like, that perfectly led into the next question, where I was going to ask you, at what point in your childhood did you realize you could play Division I football? And that seems like what you were sort of telling us is maybe in high school you realized that you were an above average compared to like other people at your school or against people you played against. So I guess that would sort of just be like, can you just go into that a little bit more for the next question? Like, when do you sort of realize that you really had like a potential in college, Division I, to play like football at that level? I guess that would sort of be the next question. When did you realize that you had a real future here?
It's a great question. So I don't know when it finally clicked, like, wow, like I can make it to the next level. But I do know, I can tell you, when I was in Pittsburgh playing at my Tiger Pride days, North Allegheny Tiger Pride is what we called it. I moved going into 7th grade, and I knew when I moved, I was kind of like, man, like what a cool dream it would be if someday, like my old friends who I played football and baseball with growing up, if they could see me on ESPN someday. So it wasn't necessarily make it to the NFL, make it to college. It's just like, I would love for my friends to be able to see me play football on TV, whatever that meant. So that was always my dream of like, I just want people to see me that I grew up with. And so when did I feel like I had the potential? That's a great question. Like everybody for the most part, you start out, at your high school playing freshman ball, and I excelled. I had a great season. I can't tell you stats. I just know I was good. Did my thing, and I got moved up that freshman year. Our varsity team went undefeated that year, and they went on a little playoff run. And so they moved 4 freshmen up from, or actually, no, it was 5. They moved 5 of us up from freshmen to varsity JV just to continue practicing with the team, to kind of see what the next level was like and to kind of just be around. And so there were 5 of us, myself, Ryan Pastor, CJ Hanna, Darian Hicks, George Berry, who got moved up. And so we just started practicing with older guys. And that kind of was a good introduction into what was coming up next. So sophomore year, high expectations. I wanted to play varsity. My brother had played varsity as a sophomore. I knew I could do it. And that was the goal. You just play in varsity. And so unfortunately, that sophomore year, I don't even know what the injury was, but I had a groin area injury that really sidelined me for the first half of the season. I got in summer camp, and I didn't get to play varsity, so I was on JV, kind of paying my dues. And when I finally got healthy, I started to make plays on JV, and it's just like, do my thing. I would sometimes get called up to varsity, sometimes wouldn't. But, I was just around. When you play JV, you dress varsity Friday nights, and then you play Saturday mornings usually, or that's how it was in Cleveland. So I was doing that. And, at that point in time, I was like, okay, I don't know, like, where football is going to take me. And, I'm good, but like, I just want to play and, enjoy the game. Football, all these sports I play was always just fun for me. So I actually took a step back, and, that spring, I really put a lot of energy into lacrosse. And I actually got really good at lacrosse that like freshman, sophomore year. And I started to get looks for lacrosse, which is the crazy thing. So sophomore year, I don't know, this is not well known, but I was actually committed to play college lacrosse at Division I at the University of Michigan. They had just transitioned from I don't know.
Just curious, what position?
Midfield. So I played midfield.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So I transitioned, and so boom, my sophomore year, I'm focusing on lacrosse. Like, I'm playing college lacrosse. Never expected it. And so then my junior season came, and I trained hard all summer. I put in the work, and I kind of just popped junior year. I remember, I don't know what game it was, but we played a team out in Columbus, Worthington Kilbourne. And I was kind of a dual player. I play wide receiver. I'd come in and do like what do they call it? The quarterback. What do they call it? Wildcat. We had a couple of Wildcat packages, and I come in at quarterback. And I think I had like a 70 or 80 yard run that game. And that kind of like put me on the map with my team. And I had this big pop run, and we ended up winning that game pretty heavily handed. But that was when I was like, okay, like, now it's football. And the rest of that season, like, I just balled out. And so then I'm like, okay, here we go. And that winter, so I didn't know, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I can play college football. I know that was like the potential to play. I had it, but I wasn't like thinking, it was like, oh, I'm playing lacrosse, but football is going well. I'm making plays. Let's see where we can take it. And that winter, I started to get D1 offers. And that's when I was like, oh, well, like, I'm good enough to play both. And the funny thing about football is full scholarship. They pay for school. College lacrosse, they don't have as many scholarships across the board for the team. So for a team of 35 kids, you may have 12 scholarships. So what they do is give out partial scholarships. And that's, I had a partial scholarship to Michigan. Then I started getting full scholarships to good schools for football. I'm just like, hey, coach, like, I love lacrosse, but like, first of all, it's that childhood dream. I want to play football, have my friends see me play. And also they're paying for school. Like, like, if I'm paying $60,000,
that's got to be hard to pass up.
It's a hard thing to pass up. So that long-winded story, I would say, when I saw the potential, I knew I always had the potential, but I maybe didn't necessarily like aspire. I wasn't like, I need to get there. But it finally came to fruition, after a lot of hard work and, resiliency, my junior year when things started to pop.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely got to be like a great journey into how you really got into Division I football. I mean, especially describing your story with lacrosse and especially describing how you got into it and how your skills really got realized in that game. I mean, you mentioned speed, agility, and all that stuff, right? So I guess like with things like speed and agility, when that translates over to football, I guess that would naturally lend itself over to a position that's highly athletic, that's something that requires you to run pretty fast or be able to move back and forth pretty fast. Um, some positions I can think of in football for that would be like, I don't know, like a cornerback, like linebacker, wide receiver, and you did indeed end up playing wide receiver. So I guess I kind of wanted to get at that. Right? So like, did you know immediately when you got into football that wide receiver was going to be the position for you, or was it kind of an exploration process? And if it indeed was an exploration process, like just take us through that and just I just want to hear what was part of that.
Yeah, so when I started playing football, I started playing, when you're young, you just play everywhere. So when I started playing, I think my first year of football was really funny to think about. I'm talking Tiger Pride Day back in Pittsburgh. I was playing like guard tackle. I was like a bigger kid. And I think I might have had like they have a weight limit when you're playing football as a young kid. So if you're over a certain amount of weight, or at least this is where I played, you couldn't touch the football. So like my first year, like I had never, I was over the weight, so I played guard or tackle. And then, as I started like to work out and like I slimmed out, then they moved me to tight end. And so I was catching the rock, blocking still a little bit, handed the dirt. And then defensively, I was playing linebacker because, at one point I loved to hit people. That slowly changed over the year a little bit. And then as things started to progress, sixth, seventh grade, I switched over, I thinned out, got more muscular and my body started to grow. I switched to receiver and safety. And so, I kind of, skill positioned on offense and defense. So I played those two areas. And I always had a knack, like I knew I loved having the ball in my hand and like creating, making plays. I always felt like I was doing that. And so when I got to high school, it was that safety and wide receiver. But I wanted the ball in my hand. So sometimes I played tailback, just any way to touch the ball because your quarterback might not always be the best when you're growing up in your local town. So when I started playing that wildcat position my junior year, that was more just to get me touches, like other unique ways. So I was still playing receiver. We had a good quarterback. Pat Kramer was his name. He'd get me the rock. And, it was just different ways to just get touches. So, I started like my craft was that receiver. So when I did off-season drills and everything, I trained specifically for receiver. But it was just, I kind of just anywhere I could get the ball in my hands is kind of how we did it. So.
No, that's awesome. So I guess one tangential follow-up, like was there like any receiver or like any player in the NFL who you kind of idolized and tried to model your game after? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Great question. So I think my favorite, so for high school, I don't know if this, I know for college, but I think this video might have came out in high school. Tavon Austin, when he was at West Virginia, he has probably, in my opinion, one of the best highlight tapes. It might have been his junior and senior season combined. You guys have to see it if you've never watched it. It's like 10 minutes of him just literally just putting people on skates and, the moves, the creativity, the speed that he had, just unreal. Just a different level. And he had a great NFL career. I don't know if he's still playing football or not. I saw a video of him recently doing some drills in the stadium training. So he might be on the team, maybe the Bills actually. But yeah, he's an unreal player. And so that was kind of like how can I be like Tate? How can I kind of have some, put some of that in my game? Where can I take it? And that's a video. I'm not even kidding. I would probably watch once a week. Towards the end of high school and early college, because it was just unbelievable. They called him Houdini on the football field, stuff he did. So that's kind of
So
how
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just curious, like how much of that like film studying really played into your game, right? Like, because like how much of that actually like, guided your style of play? I'm just curious to know because I mean I know players study film a lot. I'm just curious what kind of role that played in your career.
Yeah, I mean, you watch all sorts of film. For me, I would watch it mostly to see like type of how he created in space, to see the moves he did off the line of scrimmage, just to see if I could replicate that or hit similar route concepts, to kind of get the defender where I wanted him. So it's just all things you had in the bag. And I just watched it for motivation. Like, wow, look at this guy doing it on this big stage. Like, why can't that be me? Unfortunately, it wasn't how it happened, but it's always good to dream. That's something I always looked at. So
That's awesome. Yeah, so I guess our next question is about kind of like for any of your coaches, and then you had mentioned you like spoke with your lacrosse coach at one point, but do you have like one piece of advice in particular that any of your coaches, either in high school or college at Boston College, they gave you that you probably that really stuck with you to this day? Like even like it might not necessarily even be football related, just something that you sort of use in your everyday life, or it could also be football related. I'm just sort of curious, like we always talk about how influential a coach can be on the growth and development of a player. So was there one piece of advice from a coach, or it could be multiple pieces of advice from different coaches? But that's sort of how I just wanted to ask you for the next question we have.
mm, mm. I would just say it was nailed into me. And I don't know if you want to call it advice or just like a philosophy of doing business, going about your life. My coach in college, Coach Dazio, he was big on like molding men and kind of like getting you right. And the thing about just effort and showing up, consistency, these things that he preached, that's kind of stuck with me. So it's not really advice. It's just like, how can you constantly show up in any attitude, in any mood, and do the work at hand at a professional manner, kind of to the best of your ability, and come to work with the lunchbox and just pound it. So I try to follow that, and that's kind of now relates to professional life, marathon life, other things that I do is kind of consistency and kind of that workman's ethic, work ethic to kind of continue moving forward. Do I feel like it's so valuable to be able to play sports at any level, but especially as you get to higher levels, you get surrounded by people who have that same mentality, and then it's that attitude. You don't lose it. It may change, but you don't lose it. And how you apply it to different areas of life. That's why people love recruiting athletes or former athletes, because of the tenacity, the grit, the ability to follow through, get things done. You learn that. That's a skill. It's a learned skill from just countless years of putting in effort. So.
And I got to say that's definitely a great thing to learn, and it's good that whether it comes through football, whether it comes through anything else, just being able to battle through it and just get through whatever it is you're doing. I mean those are useful life skills no matter what you're doing. But I mean to follow up through that, I mean throughout this journey that you've had, like through your high school career, through college, or when you kind of enter that transition, right? Just take us inside the mind of Drew Barksdale. What was going through the moment you got out of high school, the moment you were getting through college, like when you were about to start playing for the BC Eagles. What exactly was your emotional state at the time? How are you dealing with all these changes that were going on at the time? Just take us through that.
Yeah, well, I can take you through my first college game day experience. So I was blessed, right? So my older brother played football at Michigan State. So I kind of got to see firsthand and understand what the experience would be like. I got to go to a couple of his games my senior year to see what an atmosphere at a Division I level would be like. And how I equate that to my first college football game, kind of the week building up to it, you live on campus, so you see the hype of the campus, them changing the campus to get ready for the game, all the glitz and glamour that they do. So you start to feel the energy, and it's a different energy once you get to college, because it's like, wow, like we are the main attraction. And I remember that first game, I'm like almost 100% positive it was versus Maine my freshman year. It wasn't even like a crazy crowd, but it was a bigger crowd than I'd ever played in, compared to high school. And I remember the advice my brother always gave me. He's like, you're walking out of the tunnel, you have fans screaming for you. If you're in you're in an away stadium, they're going to be yelling at you. You're at a home stadium, they're going to be cheering for you. Take 3 seconds to kind of like just be in the moment, look around, feel the crowd, feel the energy. And then after those couple seconds, you put that all on the back burner and you kind of focus on the task at hand. And I remember walking out my first college football game, I had like this energy, the excitement, nerves, like just like, wow, like I'm playing college football. Like, it's really a crazy journey how you get here. And the first game I had redshirted my freshman year, so I didn't even play, but like just the experience is just like, wow, like here's how you do it. Here's the guys making plays. Like, why can't that be me? Let's move forward. Let's keep putting in the work to get on the field. So, definitely just a whole wide range of emotions, but like lock in, or you kind of view the crowd for a second, and then you lock in and you're playing football. You're playing the game that you've been playing since fifth grade, since I was 9 years old. Now I'm 18, 19 years old. So yeah.
Just one quick follow-up to that question. Do you remember, you do remember like the team you played, right? Like your first game?
Yeah, I have a terrible memory now, but like if I were to look it up, I'm like 97% sure it was Maine. The Maine, I'd have to look it up, Bearcats or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. No, so it's always really interesting. I remember like one time you had spoken to me. You were talking about like the time you played USC. I believe that was in 2014 when you upset USC, who was like highly ranked. What was that like, just like being on the field, right? Because I remember like the fans must have been ecstatic to beat USC, like one of the top programs in college football, and you were on the field. You directly contributed to the efforts to that upset. Like, can you just walk me through that emotion? Like, that must have been amazing.
Oh man, so I'll start with this. Unfortunately, that was my sophomore year where I had my season-ending injury, which stunk. I think we played USC either week 4 or week 5. We started out the season at Gillette Stadium, played UMass, started that game, great experience. Then next week we played Pitt. We lost to Pitt. It was kind of a bad loss. Then we were playing USC, and it was kind of like, okay, David versus Goliath. Kind of, at least that's how the media was hyping it up. But we had a belief all week that we could do some damage. We would just have to kind of stay in the ring, take a couple punches, but then punch back, which we did. So just being on the field, like that was a red bandana, Wells Crowder red bandana game. First time we brought it out. We're decked out in these uniforms, got our, red bandana swag. The crowd is electric. There's a whole bunch of USC fans there. I think Will Ferrell was at the game. We sold out. I think the stadium sold out. So it was probably like 45, close to it, 45,000 fans, so it's loud. One of the loudest times I've been in Alumni Stadium. That's BC Stadium. It's loud. It's a night game. So we're playing under lights like you're playing Friday night football game. Again, because some of the college games you play like 12, 1 o'clock. So you're just mid-afternoon. So it's a lot different than that Friday night light feel that every high school football player knows. And that game was just electric. We had the quarterback Tyler Murphy at the time. He was electric. Our defense played stout. Great guys: Justin Simmons, Matt Milano, Steve Daniels, just some really good players. John Johnson. I could keep going on. Played stout, but that was just a great game, and how we kind of came back at the end and really kind of put the needle in the coffin, or put the nail in the coffin. it was unreal. And then to have have the fans storm the field, you don't get many experiences like that in life. I was upset. I was so ecstatic because we won the game. I was so upset though, because I was like, dang, if I wasn't hurt, like how could I have impacted this game a little bit more? But that's in the past. But it was an electric game for sure.
Yeah, no, that sounds like an amazing experience to be a part of, especially like USC. It's like, as you mentioned, is one of the, was at the time like such a great program, and that's awesome. And some of the names you also mentioned, just Justin Simmons, John Johnson,
Also, just being able to play at Gillette, that itself
Milano.
is that itself must have been an experience in and of itself.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We played some cool stadiums when I was at BC. So
Yeah, and also some of the names you mentioned, Justin Simmons with the Denver Broncos now, Matt Milano with the Buffalo Bills, John Johnson, he's with is he still with Cleveland right now? The
Cleveland Browns, yep, he's there.
Wow, that is really
Harold
cool.
Landry, Zach Allen, I think was on the team then. A lot of good guys. So.
Definitely. So I guess my next question to you is just more like in a different area. Like I'm just sort of, this is out of just sort of curiosity, like being from New England, we saw Tom Brady with his TB12 method, right? The diet he has. And I guess I just want to ask you, like as a wide receiver, you obviously like they always talk about conditioning. That's what we always hear about in like the media, at least, about like receivers conditioning. And was there ever like a diet or regimen that you followed as a wide receiver, or that anyone in the wide receiver room followed? Or was it just sort of like you can eat whatever you want because you're going to be working out so much, you'll burn a lot of calories? I'm just sort of curious about that.
Yeah, we didn't have a specific regimen. Like by no means I did anything close to TB12. The football team now has a nutritionist, so they probably have a little bit better meal plan. But you grow up playing sports, you get educated, you know what's good, what you should not put in your body, or not. You can put anything in your body, but like kind of the amounts of what you should be consuming. The benefit of playing football is you're working out so much, you're burning so many calories, you're lifting so often that you just need to have you're eating like, I don't even 4,000 calories a day, because you have to, just to keep your energy levels at like a good state, So I didn't have a specific diet, but we had like a really good meal plan. We had a really good cafeteria that you could hit. You get your veggies in, you get your protein in, you get your carbs in. We also had desserts. Got to treat yourself too. So we had a really good kind of meal spread. But I didn't follow anything too specifically. There were a couple times during my career where I was on weight gain. So they wanted me to put on, I think at my max, like I'm like 172 now, but like at my max weight, I was almost 200 pounds, like 198, 199, 200, right around there. And that's, nothing on. So pretty pound for pound, a lot bigger than I am now. But there would be times where, you're on weight gain and you're just eating extra calories, drinking extra protein shakes, you're having an extra meal during the day, just to try and keep that weight up and put it on and kind of bulk up.
Yeah, that must be that. I mean, that's got to be like quite the approach, because I know that a lot of athletes, they had their own like regimen, and I guess this is kind of an alternative way of hearing about this, in the sense that you just kind of gauge over time what's good, what's not good. It's definitely a different perspective that I've probably heard for the first time.
Mm.
But I must say, like, but about that perspective though, I mean, I must say, I mean, you definitely have a unique perspective as a player, as a Division I player, because that's because you probably go through several things, whatever routines, whatever practices, whatever you may do, things that we, the casual fan, probably don't get to see. I know you mentioned that growing up you wanted to be able to say to your friends that that you would be able to be seen on ESPN or whatever. I mean, so I guess, like, what is something that your friends probably wouldn't be able to see on ESPN that you experienced as a player that you would probably want all of us to know, For just the casual spectator who's watching at home, I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are about that.
Man, the football, when you get to college, you start to understand the kind of the thought that has to go be put into the game. You have head coaches who are getting paid lots of money. There's their profession, and football is a very intellectual game once you start getting to higher levels. And now the game has advanced so much that you're getting like this amount of thought at like high school and even some middle school. Like people are getting educated on like how to play football the right way. So when I think back to my freshman year, like, you know, in high school, you have your plays, but you're playing off athleticism more than not. Like, I'm just a better athlete than the person lined up across me. So I'm just going to win more than I'm going to lose. I'm going to beat you. You know, that's kind of just what's going to happen. But when you get to college, it's like, obviously you have those studs, you have those guys. I'm still a better athlete than you. So like, I'm still going to beat you. But the bar is a lot closer. And then imagine when you get to the NFL, it's even closer. And so what kind of separates people is what you put into the game, how you digest plays, how you can predict what's coming if you're on defense, offensively, how you can read a coverage scheme and know what type of route, how you're going to break off your route, or kind of what to expect, or how you're going to block somebody, how the safeties are playing. So there's a lot more thought in the game. And so what that means is just the amount of time off the field that you're putting into watching film, to doing, playbook reviews, all the intricacies of the game is just ridiculous. So you think football practice is like a 2-hour thing, but that's why it's a job. Like, during the season, you practice maybe for 2 hours, but then you have an hour before practice with film review. You have an hour after practice with film review. Obviously, there's time for breakfast and getting pads on and getting your PT to get ready for the day. And then there's time after practice. But there's just a ton of time. You probably put twice as much time off the field as you do on the field during your tenure in college. And like, as you get better in the game, you have like a Tom Brady, people who just love film. You put even more time. You put 3-4 times the amount of time compared to how much you're like playing, you're physically practicing on the field, because it's just like a whole different level. It's like, how can I get as much out of the game as possible? And that what I discovered, and I wasn't, I'm not going to sit here and say I was the best at like film study and everything. But, the guys who I see still playing football, the amount, I know what type of people they are off the field, the type of work that they put in onto the field. And obviously they're gifted, but like, they're also working extremely hard. And so it's just like, it's really two-pronged. It's both your performance on the field, but it's also how you preparing yourself, put yourself in the place to perform on the field. It doesn't just happen. One of my favorite coaches, Coach Adazio, is saying is this stuff doesn't happen by osmosis. Like, it doesn't just flow. Like, you gotta really put some energy into it.
So I would like to follow up by saying that just like for you personally, as your development as an athlete, where would you get more bang for the buck? Would it be more on the tactical, strategic side, where you're studying strategy, studying film, studying routes, or would it just be on the grit, the day-to-day, just keeping yourself fit, keeping yourself in shape? I mean, I understand that being an athlete, it takes both, but if you had to really emphasize your efforts in one place or the other, where would you typically concentrate those efforts, and why? I think you kind of got at this because you mentioned that before and after practice you'd spend time studying film and stuff. So I kind of understand that you're kind of saying that a lot of this does go into the strategic element, but what I am curious to know is how does that play into the bigger picture in terms of how you develop as an athlete as a whole, and just compare and contrast that with the pure physical fitness aspects of it. I'm just so go ahead on that one.
Yeah, it's a great question. So obviously, it's at some level, you can put as much thought and commitment off the field into the game, but like at some level, you have to have some bar of fitness, some bar of athleticism, some bar of grit, ability, because you got to make plays. You got to just be good. Like, there are some kind of genetic benefits. Like if you're really tall, you have really big hands, you're really fast, you're long, you have a big body frame where you can put weight on. Coaches see that, where it's like they'll bet on potential. But like, once you get to the college level, and then especially once you get into the NFL level, it's way more important about, in my opinion, about what you do outside of the field. Because at some point you'll reach like your athletic potential. Like this, and I wish I had known this earlier on. I've kind of recognized this as I've grown up in life, but like there's a point where it's just like I am as good as obviously I'm going to continue to work and hone and craft and think about different ways to do things, but like I'm kind of, I'm not going to get, legally much stronger. I don't think I'll get so much faster. Like this is the toolbox that I have. So now that I know that I have this toolbox, how can I just optimize what I do really well on a field, How can I make sure I'm always in the right place? And I make sure I'm always in the right place by studying film and knowing what's going to happen before it happens. So then it becomes, okay, I got the skill, I have my base, but now how I'm going to get better, how I'm going to get a step faster is not through like doing 10 extra wind sprints. I'm going to be a step faster because I studied the film so much, or I studied the playbook so much that I know exactly where I need to be. I know exactly this is speaking receiver. I know the timing of the route. I know the coverage tree, or, I know the coverage. I know what route, how I run my route against said coverage. And I know where the ball is going to be delivered in exactly the amount of time. I know what the front is. I know, how much time the quarterback has. I'm going to be there. And if I'm there at that exact time and I hit my steps right, then I'll be a step faster and be able to do so much more after the catch because I prepared so much pre-snap. So that's when I think about it, where you put, kind of like where you put your time. It's both. You have to have a level. And obviously if you want to you got to work to get to that level. But once you get to a certain level, then it's like, what are you doing to like differentiate yourself? Because, coaches will always say, right, they'd rather take the least talented kid, but the kid, like once you're there, like they'd rather take someone who's going to put in the work off the field than have the most talented player who doesn't care about doing the extra stuff. Good coaches have been around the game and around so many players to be like, that guy was extremely talented, but he was also the hardest worker on the team. And when they say the hardest worker, they're talking about the stuff outside of just like the field. They're talking about the weight room. They're talking about film study. They're really preparing themselves. And so, any like elite football player you watch today who's like a dog, he's also putting it in off the field as well to kind of really be in that position.
That's really fascinating because it almost seems like you're hinting that a lot of this is really skill, right? A lot of it's just about putting in the work, putting in the hours, learning more about the game, which isn't necessarily something that has to be like synonymous with inborn talent. I mean, obviously, I get what you're saying that you have to meet some base threshold of being good, right? But it seems that beyond that, I mean, is it accurate to say that beyond a certain threshold of basic athletic ability, that what separates the good from the greats is their ability to really just learn the game really, really well? Is that kind of what you're getting at here?
Absolutely. I'll give a quick aside. I actually just saw him a couple months ago for our 5-year reunion, but old teammate, roommate for a few years, great guy, John Johnson, starting safety for the Cleveland Browns, signed his second contract. He's a star in the NFL, right? He was probably, I mean, he's talented. Like he could jump out of the gym from day one, big frame, long, big hands, like, rangy, not the fastest, not the quickest, but his level of intellect when it comes to the game, I've never seen anything like it. He would know exactly what was happening pre-snap, during the play, post-snap, and he would know exactly where we'd have to be. And so you mix that with that level of, thought with his athletic ability, he's making plays because, he's got both. And the reason why he's so successful now is because he's not the fastest safety in the NFL, but he's in the right place always because he knows and he puts in the work off the field. And then he has the skills on the field to, position himself well. So that's just an example of like someone, I've seen firsthand, but, it's a combination of both. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that is just incredible insight you've just provided. Like, I mean, in terms of like, because as like Rohan mentioned, like all your friends on like who would want to watch on ESPN, even us who are just sort of like, we just love watching football, but we never played. Like, there's just a lot of things sometimes we take for granted, which obviously we know like it's not easy, right? Like when we see a receiver get wide open and catch a pass, we always say, oh, makes it look so easy. But we always know like inside there's so much work that was put into doing that.
Yeah, whenever I see that, it almost feels as if I'm just playing Madden. I was like, oh, just press the circle button on your PS4 controller and boom, it's there. But I guess for the actual athletes out there who are actually making the plays and actually doing stuff out there, I guess it's a very different story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess like just sort of in a different area now. So about your like college experience overall, and I guess we touched upon this a little bit when we talked about the USC game in 2014. But what is like your favorite memory, I guess, of your playing career at Boston College, or is it like at Boston College, or is it just sort of like do you have like one favorite memory of like a game where you absolutely dominated, or is there like any just particular one memory in particular that really just even today you just sort of look back at it fondly just about it? So
Yeah, great question. It's weird. I don't know, but I don't really have like I remember like if I'll see scores, I'll be able to kind of remember some things about games, but I don't really think about games as much anymore. That kind of life has moved on for me. I would say probably one of my most happiest moments was my senior year. We played in the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit, Michigan. So I'm from Cleveland. Detroit's 2.5 hours from home. That was a good kind of like I knew that was my final football game in my life. But I would say I was the happiest after that because I'd gone through all this turmoil, injuries, kind of not living up to expectations that I had set for myself. And I'd carved out a role on the team, not the role I would have expected when I was signing that letter of intent as a 18-year-old looking to play college football. But like, I ended the game. My family was there. Some of my best friends were there. I was there with my team. We won, first time BC winning a bowl game in, many years, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So, kind of like a good kind of way to go out, I thought. So that's definitely what I think about. When I reflect back on football, it's just like, that was a good way to end it. It wasn't how I would anticipate it being ending. Everybody who plays college football wants to make it to the next level. I unfortunately had too many injuries and my love for the game changed. And when you get hurt a lot, it kind of the rehab, like if you look at like Andrew Luck when he retired, like I was like, I completely get it, bro. He's a different story, but like when you get injured a lot, it's a grind, on top of everything else. So being able to go out a winner, to be going out with a bowl win near my hometown, family, friends, all that, that's a good memory for me.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, since you did mention that your love for the game changed, I mean, that's definitely as a player, right? Because you've been through a lot, you've been through injuries, you've been through whatever the daily grind that just being a player entails. I mean, your love for the game as a player may be one thing, but has this really fundamentally altered your relationship with the game itself? Would you be open to potentially still engaging with the game and in other roles, potentially as a coach, even in the future, right? Because I know that I know that since the tactical aspects of it, since we kind of went over this, that's a big aspect. Is that something you'd be open to in the future? I'm just curious.
No, you know, a coach is a whole different lifestyle. You think football players grind, coaches are grinders. They love football. Like having love for the game of football is a different meaning when you're a coach versus a player. And it's a different type of work. It's a different effort. So no, I would never be a coach. Maybe I coach like a son's team, little league team, like, you know, high school team, like grade school team or something, but never like, you know, when you're a player, you see what the coaches do. Like if you're showing up at 5, or if you're getting to the facility at 6 a.m., the coaches are there at like 5:15, watching game film, preparing, you know, they're grind, like the lifestyle of a coach at the college and NFL level is a grind, in a way different way. And you know, you really have to have a certain love for football to kind of do that. It's a whole different thing, you know. Coaching, that's a whole different conversation. They're a whole different breed of people. So I respect any and every football coach out there, but you know, I never saw that as kind of a step for me, for sure.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I guess, like, I mean, you hear stories about like coaches, like they have to get into the practice facility early. And I guess the expectations are also there. As you mentioned, like the coaches in college and NFL, they're making potentially millions of dollars. So there's a high expectation for them. It's like a high stress environment too, right? Because coaches are usually the first to go if something doesn't go well, right? Because you can't really fire the players. That's usually a common expression, right? In any sport, not just football, but usually you say if things aren't going well, you can't fire the players. The coach is the one who usually takes a lot of the blame for that. So that makes a lot of sense, like sort of in like it's a different level of stress, right? Like for sure.
Right.
Like, and yeah, we've seen it a lot, like where coaches like win a championship and then a couple years later, after a couple like I guess seasons that don't lead to a championship, they're let go. So I guess the last question we have for you. So first of all, this was very insightful. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. This was incredible just to hear like the life perspective of a former athlete, college athlete. And it's great to see that now you're able to still do things you love and you still follow the game, right? Like football, like you still follow
Absolutely.
NFL.
I'm a huge football fan. You know, once NFL season comes, I'm every Sunday watching my Steelers if I get them in Boston or.
Oh, you're a Steelers fan, not a Browns fan. Okay, I said makes sense.
So I'll say it this way. You know, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so first love was Steelers. I have some family friends. Lynn Swan played for Steelers. You know, so I'm a Steeler fan. But you know, more recently,
So you grew up watching Big Ben.
What's that?
You grew up watching Big Ben.
Grew up watching Big Ben, you know, but more recently, so you know, my brother John Johnson's on the Browns now, so I root for the Browns now. You know, I'll be okay to say that. You know, I had high expectations for the Browns last year. They didn't live up to them, but I was like, they could go somewhere. Unfortunately, the season turned, but you know, I want my friends to do well and their teams to do well, so I root for any team where I have buddies, old teammates on. But I am a Steeler fan.
That's awesome. So I guess just leading up to that, then the next question, our last question, just for the upcoming NFL season, what's your predictions? Like, I mean, do you have a Super Bowl pick? Or I know it's very early, but these are the fun times to do it because right now, like everyone sort of has like kind of a recency bias. Like obviously the Los Angeles Rams just won the Super Bowl, so everyone like they're a trendy pick. Cincinnati had a great season. I know they're a rival to the Steelers, but they're going to be good again next year. You would probably think so too. So. Like, I guess, what is your like kind of pick for the NFL season? Like, do you have like a Super Bowl matchup?
So I haven't thought that far yet. A Super Bowl matchup. So I was actually just talking to an uncle when I was on vacation, and when I looked through it, so I'll start with NFC because they're not as loaded at quarterback. When you look at the NFC, they don't have the quarterback talent that the AFC has, and so. I think of like the best quarterbacks in the NFC. I'm thinking, what's his face? Super Bowl champ, Rams. Why am I blanking?
I would imagine Aaron Rodgers
Matthew
has to be on that list.
Stafford.
Oh, Matt
Matt
Stafford. Okay.
Stafford, Kyler Murray. And then there's Dak Prescott with the Cowboys. And then it's kind of like open, there's not, I might be forgetting a couple guys. I don't have all the teams in front of me right now, but there's not as many. They're all talented, but they're not the same caliber of quarterback in the AFC. So those three guys are like the big guys that I'm thinking of. So I never liked, the Cowboys might have a sleeper type season where they can make some moves. I mean, the Rams, obviously everyone's going to be talking about the Rams. They're bringing back most of their team, but they're paying a lot of guys a lot of money. So that kind of impacts the team in entirety. I'm not a GM, or I don't follow football enough to know like what their team looks like. But I'm gonna throw out a sleeper in there is the Cowboys. When I looked at the way the NFC was broken out, I was like, that makes sense. So we'll go Cowboys. AFC is tough. You got quarterbacks everywhere. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow. Who else you got? Who else in the AFC?
Lamar Jackson,
Derek Carr. You just got talent. I'm probably okay. I forgot Tom Brady in the NFC, but like Tom Brady's old. I think he's not going to have the same season. He's talking about retirement, but like there's a lot more talented QBs in my opinion in the AFC. So I have a tougher time picking. I also really, my favorite QB, Justin Herbert, Chargers. He didn't even make the playoffs last year, so you got a lot of talent in the AFC, and so that's a toss up for me. The Steelers are going to really be bad this year. I don't think, or really bad. They'll be good, but like, funny story, their quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, he was my high school rival. So I don't know if he's going to start this year. They picked up the Pitt quarterback as well, but me and Mitch played against.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett, right?
Kenny Pickett. Yeah. So, I don't know, but I wouldn't, there's something like, here's how I'm picking it, right? For AFC. I play fantasy. So I'm looking at that Joe Burrow. There's just something he has a certain it factor, that swag, confidence that I respect. And he had it all last year. He had it the year before. Like he just has it. He's gritty. So I kind of, I'll say Bengals. This is probably far off. I'm going to go Cowboys, Bengals. I don't do these. This is probably really going to come back to bite me. I don't.
Well, come February, there's a small chance that this might age well.
There's a
small
small
chance, but
I don't put these things on record, but now this is on record, so I have a prediction, and this is completely unresearched. I don't even know what the team. I haven't looked at fantasy yet, so I don't know. But that's we'll do Cowboys, Bengals, because I like the AFC North. And so I don't think the Ravens are going to make it out. So, and the Steelers definitely aren't. And, the Browns, like, unfortunately, with all their quarterback issues, we'll just leave it at that. I don't think they're going anywhere this season. So.
No, that is awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's a good prediction. Bengals, Cowboys. The only thing is since Cincinnati just went to the Super Bowl this past season, it's just, I usually don't see teams making it to 2 straight Super Bowls, unless you're the Patriots, which was an exception. But yeah, I mean, I think Cincinnati is definitely a good pick. I mean, I mean, if it's not the Patriots with Mac Jones, I would love to see.
Aren't going.
But if it's not,
Patriots probably only make the playoffs. Let's just be, let's just be real here.
Yeah.
A safe pick probably would have been Mahomes with the Chiefs, but they also lost
Tyreek Hill.
They lost Tyreek Hill, so who knows what that offense will look like.
Exactly.
Now we'll see Mahomes is a good quarterback. So
I'm weirdly enough, I actually picked the Bills to win it all next year.
Bills, my friend Matt Milano plays. The Bills deserve it. I completely forgot the Bills. I might have to change my answer, but the Bills are a good team too. That game against KC last year in the championship was unreal. Or was it? No, that was it. No,
that was a divisional round.
That was divisional round. I take it back. That wasn't even the championship. That was a divisional round. Oh my God. But yeah, the Bills. They've been, funny story. I haven't been to a Bills game recently, but when Matt Milano got drafted there in 2017, I went to a few games, 2018, 2019, and to see what they were building in that stadium for a couple of years, and now to see it kind of like finally blooming, and now they're in that sweet spot with Allen and players are playing well. I hope they really, they're homegrown. let's see if they can kind of cash in now. But they've been kind of brewing in the pot since 2017, kind of building the culture. Whoever the head coach is, I forget his name.
Sean McDermott.
McDermott, yeah. So he was, I think 2017 or 2016 was his first year, but they've been like building something, and it's kind of like, popping. So we'll see what happens. I completely forgot about the Bills.
Well, what I can say is that Martha and I we went to a Bills Patriots game over at Gillette, and it was that Boxing Day game, and yeah, like to say the least, the Patriots got killed that game, and but we did get to see Josh Allen, so that was it was good to be able to see that. Of course, we as Patriots fans wish the outcome were different, but I mean the Bills they're an up and coming team, so that kind of convinced me that this is the team to beat in the future. That's just kind of my perspective on it, but
yeah.
I mean, since Rohan also gave his prediction, I guess I'll have to just give my early one. I'm going with the Buccaneers Raiders for my Super Bowl for next
Fair
year.
enough.
Was that like a rematch of Super Bowl 37, I believe? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think Tom Brady, like if it is his final season, he's going to go out. He's going to try to go out with another Super Bowl. And I really love what the Raiders did this offseason. They added Devontae Adams, and I think that offense with Josh McDaniels now as the head coach as well, and they've added players on defense too, Chandler Jones. That's my early Super Bowl pick, Buccaneers Raiders. But we'll see. I mean, every year there's always some surprises. Some teams do really well. Some teams that are expected to do well don't do well. So yeah, no, but Drew, just before you let you go, do you have anything else you wanted to just share to our listeners about like anyone who's aspiring to play football? Do you have any advice for them or anything? Like just like
work hard, follow your dreams, and have fun. I always had fun playing football. I kind of looked at football as kind of a form of expression, and a great game, really fun game. And it kind of took me to a lot of great places, and it's helped really launch me into this next stage of life. I have some lifelong friends and relationships from the game, and it just kind of helps in so many ways. So like, have fun, enjoy it, regardless of where you are. It's a great game. So.
Well, Drew, it's definitely been a phenomenal time. I mean, it's not all the time that two people like us, just average podcasters, get to talk to a former athlete. So I mean, you definitely did provide a lot of unique perspective and a lot of and a lot of wisdom along the way. So and I'm sure that anyone out there who's watching can gain a lot from what you've told us. So yeah, Jeff, definitely thank you for your contributions and everything that you've done. And we're looking forward to seeing if we can keep doing this. So definitely thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll have to get you guys with I'm a has-been. We gotta get you with a current, but I appreciate you guys having me on the show. This was always good. I haven't thought about half of these thoughts in such a long time, so it's always good to kind of think about them and be in that state. So I appreciate the opportunity, and good luck with your guys' your venture and what you're up to next.
Yeah, sure thing. So that will wrap up this episode. Until then, we will be back next week again with our old format, or I guess our new current format of 10 topics or the hottest topics in sports. But until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone, and we will be back next weekend.
All right. Peace.